Hi, this is Lindsay Ambrose with Choosing Love.
And hi, I'm Jackie Woodward. How are
We
you?
are we are having soulful conversations about integrating spirituality into everyday life. We're talking about how we can choose love through the natural ups and downs of every day. So, thank you for tuning in. We're so happy that you're here. This is a particularly tricky time right now, and we feel like a lot of us are experiencing a lot of being triggered and just the testing of our patience and of our ability to really be our highest self as we're in the middle of this pandemic, and we're having our children at home with us and doing homeschooling. We're trying to get our work done. We're keeping up our homes, and then just experiencing kind of like the stress of that. So our show today is an opportunity for us to share some tools with you about how you can cope and how you can be more present and be in the experience, and to really not be so caught up with what the outcome is and how things are going to happen, and be more open to how things are naturally happening in the flow and just being present through it.
Mm-hmm. That's great, because I really do believe that we can view this as this is a negative effect or a positive effect, but it's really how we show up in every and each moment. And it is hard. It's really hard to work and get things done when we have to provide for, our children, or provide for ourselves, or whatnot. So there's a lot of unknowns. And what we sometimes do when we have the unknowns, I think sometimes people choose to numb out or distract themselves, or not really focus on, like one thing that Lindsay said earlier when we were talking is, we are, as humans, we're results oriented. So we look for the result of what it's going to be. And so I think that can cause a little bit of just a little bit of chaos in our system. And what I believe is that if we can just focus on the experience that we're having in each and every moment of the day, we'll become more present. And with that, life will be so much flowier. And also we get more opportunities to really connect with who we are in the chaos. So what we really want to do here with you all is just to help you realize that experiences, we can build on this as a beautiful experience that we're in. We're giving this opportunity right now to build your own self up, and also bring better relationships to each other and to our community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's an Eckhart Tolle quote that I really like. I'm just going to share here. It's, one thing that he says is, you cannot be both unhappy and fully present in the now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being one of the tools, I think, is recognizing when you're in a place where you're only feeling like defeated, and you're only feeling kind of fearful or unhappy. And if we can bring that awareness into that, we can create a little space between that feeling and then how we're choosing to respond and how we're choosing to show up in this new moment. Sometimes we feel like we shouldn't feel those feelings, but it's not so much that, it's natural to feel that way, especially, with what's happening. But what if, one of the great tools is to be able to create kind of some space. So to be able to observe those feelings as they're coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, if you think about it, you kind of go back in your own experience, and I mean, think about all these emotions we've had. Think back to that time, another time in your life when you felt very fearful, or when you feel great joy. Even all those feelings, like you're still like there's something beneath all of that. Like feelings, those thoughts, they come and go, and that we want to like try to see ourselves as more than that. So it's hard to explain, but it's like that's like not us, that's thought, that's something, we're deeper than that. So how do we, bring awareness to it, and then in the moment we can pause and breathe, and then we can get to this present moment, because that's where we're going to find that joy. And it's like, if we can shift that, recognition, and kind of choose to pause and then find that appreciation somehow, that can kind of help us move into a different space.
Yeah, I agree. And like, even in this moment, really quick, Lindsay, let's just go ahead and just take a deep breath right here. And just really allow yourself to breathe out here. And just like right now, we're having an experience, and it's our choice right now. Like, I could sit here and be talking to you and picking up my phone, but I'm really focused on the importance of this moment and carrying out our message of what is experience, what is presence, what does it mean? Like, some people think like we have to meditate in order to clear your mind. But I also feel like meditation not only is just, I definitely do feel that you should sit on a pillow and, or sit on it anywhere, or walking meditation too, like you mentioned in your videos that we have on our channel, is that meditation is definitely a place to get inner guidance and inner wisdom. Your higher consciousness comes through, and you're able to get to know yourself better. What I'm trying to say too is that we can have an experience. We can have an experience by doing work. But what's important is that we're focused on that work and that work only. And then if something takes us out of that work, we end that work. We don't merge it with something else, because what happens is that that's when I think a lot of frustration happens. And sometimes it's not a perfect world, and our children will jar us out of the moment. But when we decide to take that breath and accept that the experience is moving from one place to the next, then we can calm our system down and say, instead of thinking, oh my God, I got to get back to that, I got to get back to that. Everything is happening for a reason in that moment, for whatever purpose or whatever meaning that you're getting. You're getting a life lesson. You're getting to learn to help your child. And also you're learning probably how to transition. I know for myself, Lindsay, I'm not good with transitions. I have to teach myself and reprogram myself that I'm going from point A to point B, and that there is some beauty in between the transition. Does that make sense? Like, how do you see transitions?
Yeah, I think it's something that I need to work on too, because I think as a mom, and I think we are called to kind of switch gears really quickly. If you have, I think many times throughout the day today, I was with one child getting him set up, and then my other daughter's calling to me, and I know in the back of my head that I know this Zoom call is supposed to start in 15 minutes. It's like we're kind of tasks with that, and I try to remind myself that I can only do one thing at one time. So yeah, I think my challenge is like creating that transition, and really being mindful that okay, I'm doing this right now and I can only do this. So let me be here with him, and knowing that when I'm really here with my son and just connecting on this quick point and not worrying about the next Zoom call and my daughter, that then I can be there with him in that moment. Because it kind of goes back to that, Oprah says this, like, what do our children want? They want to know that they're being seen, that they're being heard, and that what they're saying is important, is meaningful. So yeah, so for me, transitions, it's like I think that I need to create more of a practice with transition, and just because it's like everything's so fluid, right? And so like sometimes we need to have like you said, this, we have this work and it's complete, and now we're getting into this new work, this new experience. And so I love the idea of thinking about transition, and it's something that it's a practice and something that I know I need to work on, just because of that, you know, desire, that need to feel like I'm kind of have to be like throwing so many balls up in the air at one time to kind of keep things moving. But really, that kind of mental attitude is just probably is so inefficient and not productive.
So what's so great about that, Lindsay, is like what came up for me is, where are you trying to get to? Like when we throw
Right.
all these balls up in the air, what is it that we're really trying to get to? What sort of, I don't know, perfection, or what is it that we feel like we have to be the all for everything? But what
Mm-hmm.
about being the all for yourself? And
Mm-hmm.
really, because like I think my thoughts is that relationships could be so much better too. Is if, I mean, I'm talking children, I'm talking bosses, I'm talking, if we can just say, I'm gonna stay in this for right now, and if something pulls me out, I'm gonna accept that, but I'm going to shut this first experience down and be able to move into that. But I think it's also important to have that transition anchor. What does that mean? So what I mean by transition anchor is that, I call it, like for me, like I said earlier, the breath. The, like when you feel that uprising of emotion because you're getting transitioned to something else, that is your cue to say, breathe. And the more that you can practice that throughout your day, the better things would be. And maybe sometimes you need 5 breaths, 10 breaths, but just, you can always say, hold on a second. I need just a moment, and I'll be right with you. I'll be right with you. And even if your child is crying, you could just say, I just need a moment. So just make sure you close one thing with the next. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love the idea of using your breath as an anchor, because that is that one thing that's always there, and it's there to help, yeah, remind us that yeah, that's kind of how we can, it always does help when I just remember to do that. It's right, it's a practice, like just take the breath and pause. And as you were talking, it kind of led me to think a little bit about intention, and just kind of the idea when we can be intentional about what we're doing, it kind of will help to like create that closure with what that one thing, so we can move on to the next, you know. And so sometimes, instead of like allowing yourself to be thrown right into the next thing, what if you take that pause and like be intentional about what the outcome is, or what you're going for, and then, like you said, what if you shift it? I mean, I think many of us, and I know that I feel this is, like, who is it for? Like, how often have we been doing these things, and it's like maybe for the acceptance or the approval from someone else? You know, you're looking for those gold stars, the extra credit, you know, whatever it is, you kind of have that need to find that result. You know, we get that, it's kind of like a innate like good feeling, right, to know that like you check that off. Or but yeah, I think this is really teaching us to just like in like recognize the beauty in the journey, like in the work, you know,
Right.
and that it's not about the outcome so much. It's more like, how are you in this work? How are you showing up? And you know, yeah.
Well, I got 2 things to share as you're saying that. The first thing that comes up is, I was on a beach in early part of January, and now that I'm in this position right now, I'm I'm s- I'm kind of sad at myself, because I really wasn't, when I was sitting on the beach there, I didn't connect with it. I didn't connect to the sounds. I didn't connect, but I miss that now. And not saying that there's a longing there, but that learning lesson of opportunity, that I was on that beach and I didn't listen to what nature has had to offer. You know, we sit there and we YouTube like, um, certain sounds or whatnot, and I had it, and I didn't take that opportunity because I was thinking about how to better myself. But nature creates how to make you better. Your breath makes you better. And the second thing I wanted to bring up is like, as we're nearing, like now states are starting to open up, and I know there's some turbulence with people with states opening up, but I'm actually starting to feel a tiny bit of regret that I haven't spent that much time with my children like I would have, what I initially wanted to do, And so I am finding as the days go on is like, I can't wait to look at my son's eyes in the morning for those 5-10 minutes. Like every opportunity he interrupts me with a funny joke, like I want to do that. Or when my daughter has, she's upset, I sit with her. So I want to use these opportunities to really, first of all, draw on the experience for myself, and secondly, teach my children that they don't have to do everything. They can stay right here in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? But what would you say? How do you do that? How do you? I mean, I feel like it's one of those challenges where, like, when you're in it, it's hard to appreciate it sometimes. So, like, are there things we can do leading up to it that can help us be more present or be more aware and recognizing those little moments of things to be grateful for, things to be appreciative of?
Yeah, I think there's just those little things during the day. Like the one thing is like meditation, and starting off the day with meditation. Like I think we've mentioned this a few times because it just teaches you to have breath. And the other thing is honestly is practice, like just knowing like what we're speaking and letting it really, really drive inside of you to really realize that like whatever is coming up in the moment, like say if you're frustrated or upset, even in work, it's picking up on something, but it's giving you the opportunity to sit with that feeling, saying it's okay. I'm just feeling this feeling. I don't need to attach it to anything else. And I'm just having this experience with this feeling for the first time of my life. And it's okay because it's coming up and it's really activating it inside of activating inside of me. So I'm just gonna sit with it and sit with it as long as you need to. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I think that is it, because I just noticed, as I've practiced meditating, and I've made like this practice of shifting, making an intention of choosing appreciation over expectations, right? So like the idea of trying to like recognize, okay, I'm getting this thought's coming in, but what can I appreciate right now? What's going right? And it's a practice. I think our upbringing and our just even our we're not like many of us can kind of like, if you look at yourself on both, seeing the positive, seeing the negative, like we're maybe trained a little bit more to see the negative. So you just have to train your brain, and our brains are just capable of change, that's possible. And I do notice a shift. And it's like you're, as you meditate and you begin to just practice breath and practice, it becomes easier, and you have less moments of that kind of cloud that's over you where like you just can't even see the good, like I don't experience it as much.
Yeah. Like the one like important piece of all of this is, why do we want to be in the experience? Why do we want to be present? And I think what it is that we're losing self, and I think that's what's showing up in what's happening with the pandemic, is like we are regaining ourself. We're learning more about ourselves and how our community relates to each other. But it's really about bringing it back to the self, because like meditation always brings you back to yourself, and experiences bring you more knowledge of yourself. And if you have too much experience all in one, it becomes chaos. It really, really does chaos. And why I say this, like I'm a youngest of 13 kids. Like, I mean, there was many, many experiences coming to me, and to find that calm, I wish my mother would have taught me how to meditate and be present inside my body so I could honor myself and be in my truth. But sometimes when we're going, I feel like we're actually doing it for other people. And so we come out of the present situation and we're always chasing the reward. Does that?
Yeah. I mean, something that you said really stands out is that, like your own truth. So what, being in your integrity, what you need, is really huge because, I mean, how often, when you find yourself, like you maybe set an intention and then you don't do it. And it's like that lie to yourself is like the worst. It just eats you up. So that finding that truth and knowing, it's hard, because I think we sometimes lose touch with that, our inner core, right? Like, so it's being able to recognize the truth that's there and, guiding us, but it's not always easy with all the noise. Yeah.
There's a quote that I liked that I saw because I just love that we're talking about this topic. Is what I have here is that life is too ironic. It takes sadness to know what happiness is, and noise to appreciate silence, and abstinence to value presence. That's an unknown author. But what I wanted to add into it is sometimes we have to know what love isn't in order to know what love is. So it seems like what we seek, right? What we seek is what we really truly want, right? But we don't always go after it. And so, does that make sense? Like we want silence, but then we want the noise. And when we have the noise, we can't hear the silence. And so I like that when I heard that.
Yeah, I love that too. I mean, there's kind of even like the grass is always greener on the other side, that kind of idea where like we sometimes just tend to want those things that we don't have, and then we have it, and then we want to go back to what was. I think, it's a really great one. But yeah, sometimes we have to know, what the other end of it to really appreciate what we have. We have to have that feeling of, the kids being gone all day to then really enjoy their, enjoy them so much, or, but yeah, that's the work, right? The work is to just to make sure that we're appreciating what's coming up when it's coming up, and being able to ask the right questions. And when things are challenging us, ask different question. What am I supposed to learn from this? Or, what's the good in this? So yes, it's really interesting, and I think very true. Yeah.
Well, one thing that you just brought up that I thought was what came to me is like when you mentioned about when your kids are gone, when they're home, when they go away and then they come back. Well, my feeling and my sense also is that if we were in the present moment and aware of ourselves each and every moment, we wouldn't need our children to be away. We wouldn't need our partners to be away. If we take that time for ourselves to focus on what is at hand, in each and every moment, and we appreciate the moments for what they are, then it wouldn't feel like that. Just like starting off with the meditation. And I know people can probably be sitting here saying, come on, Jackie, this is the real world out here. But it is practice. It's about, having an agreement with whomever is around you that I'm going to focus on this. This is what I need to focus on. And if something interrupts me, I'm going to move to this. So taking things as like not a loss, but each moment as a win. Each moment is a win instead of a loss. And I also have this analogy of like two racers training for a marathon. So we have two trainers racing for a marathon. We have one that is like, I want to win. And this other one really wants to win, but this one takes like the one one of them takes the high intensity route. Like, I'm going to smash it all the time, every workout, and I'm just going to get to the goal. And then this other one's like, well, I'm going to do the training as prescribed, and I am going to, but enjoy the scenery, enjoy what's around me. And so when you get across the finish line, this one that was high intensity probably has so many injuries, still probably got the goal. The other one probably got across the line, but who has more really? A gold medal versus a person that got to see the trees, got to spend time with their family, got to really check in with their body, saying, oh, this hurts. No, I'm not going to do that much today, and really honoring it. So the question is, are you honoring what's inside of you, or are you honoring a piece of a material of a gold medal in namesake? So I guess what we're trying to say here is that we really want to purify your interior so your world and your community can look better and feel better. And also saying no. You can say no if you don't want to go into another experience. You are allowed to say no most of the time, and not to layer up any other things until that experience is over and you can and you're satisfied and you can move to the next experience.
Yeah, I know. I love that analogy. As a runner myself, I know it's like when you look back on those big accomplishments, like crossing the finish line, it really is not that moment that's the best. It's when you look back at kind of like all those training days that led up to it. Like that's it. That's where like the real like experiences are from, and like all those moments that led up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a training. I think it's a training of our brain, right? I think we've been taught that it's like the shiny things or the big gold star, the big whatever the material that we've been trained to feel like that's what's going to create that joy or create that fulfillment, but it's not. It's not that. It's something more. I was just going to add. There's a comment that came in from Lindsay Fernandez, so I thought I'd read it now because it's kind of in alignment with what we're talking about, and I just wanted to remind everyone that if you have any comments or questions, to please add them, because we love to answer them and see how, make this as interactive as possible. But what she said is, one thing I noticed that I do probably a lot more than I realize is pick up on the emotions of everyone else who's around me. And then I tend to get lost in those feelings. It's as if I can't find my own self, which makes it difficult to stay present. What practices do you recommend to first of all notice when this happens and then find myself within it? And that's just a really, really good question. I think many of us can relate to that. I have two thoughts on that, and then Jackie, I'll let you, talk. But this quote that comes from Lori Gottlieb, she wrote a book called, I forget, but what she said is peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. To me, like, it's a little bit of that, like of course, like, we're humans and we're we're humans, but we're like souls, we're spiritual. So we're feeling what other people are feeling, like we're connected. So we're going to feel when other people are angry and sad and we can't like just be like, oh, not gonna let that into my world. So I guess it's recognizing that and not allowing but choosing to create some space from it, so creating a little space so that I'm choosing my response, trusting that those people that I'm with right now are having a hard experience right now. They're experiencing a lot and they're feeling a lot of anger. And when you're feeling maybe a lot of those things, it's maybe comes from hurt. They're going through something. And so when I can recognize that, that really can help me sometimes, because I can realize then that, this is them, this is something they're going through, and that I can take it in and kind of like make it mine, or I can recognize that that's theirs right now. And then I love something that I'll say a lot, as kind of like an affirmation is, like the light in me sees the light in you.
Mhm.
So something along those lines. And like, so it's kind of like choosing to see that person as their higher self, even if they're not showing it in that moment.
Mhm.
So when I can say that to myself, I can kind of somehow find that compassion or that empathy and know that, they're going through something hard right now.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so being able to just like somehow see it in that way kind of helps me. Because I know that if I get triggered from their anger and their sadness and I respond in that way, it just like heightens it for them. It just like, it kind of like that pain body or whatever they're going through right now, my like responding in the same way can just make it worse. But yeah.
Yeah, I think Lindsay and Lindsay, thank you for your question. I am in agreement with what you just said. There's a couple things I wanted to add to it, but I just wanted to first clear myself out with what I wanted to say. Is that yes, when someone's having something and we feel into their emotions, it's not ours to take on. Like Lindsay said, it's like to hold space for them because it's their journey. We are ultimately here to help each other out and just allow the process to come. The reason why someone's having a reaction to something is the reason why they're having a reaction to something is because they have an unprocessed emotion for probably some inner child stuff or child stuff from when they're younger, or they're still trying to figure it out. And when we hold space for them, they're able to allow their system to unwind. And yes, we need to be there for our children, more so than like our friends or our boss. But and just let them know that we're listening or hearing. But like you said, our moods do add to it. My question is on the other end too, is like the essence that I get with this too is there's two things that come up. The first thing is, are we people pleasing? Or two, is this actually a distraction from being in the moment because you're trying to fix it so you can get back to wherever you were? So that's what I'm saying is separate out. So that's what I'm saying is like separate out the experiences so you can be in each experience for the benefit of others as well as yourself. And if you are in a moment with something and you're getting triggered, you need to hold that for yourself and allow that other person to have their moment. And then when that moment's over with, you can have your moment. It's called sharing and conflict resolution. It's hard to do, but just watch it. If you can just hold space, it actually, while they're unwinding, you will unwind as well. Does that, like you said, like it's like the scary, like you go up to a bear, right? Roar, right? And what does that bear do? He comes right after you. But if you just stand still and you stand there, that bear most likely won't come and attack you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to be big, but don't like yell at it and scream at it. It's going to come after you, right?
I like the bear analogy. um, yeah, there's one other. We're all about the quotes tonight, but one other thing that I was gonna add is this is by Dr. Shefali Tsabary, who wrote Conscious Parenting, and so she's some really great work around being conscious in our parenting. So conscious is being one with, right? And like seeing the experience together with the other person. But she says, release your attachments to how things ought to be, and instead surrender to how they actually are. So it's such a simple thought, but I love that because it's like, how often, and am I so attached to that, that vision or that feeling of how things ought to be, like I've found this, when I'm out, like I tried to when you try to create an experience for someone else, like we do this with our kids, like we're out, oh, we're going to try out this new hike and I'm super excited about it and I can't wait to share with them. But I don't know how they're going to respond to it. And how often have I been like, you're going to love this. And when they don't, like, oh, like so often like that, I could allow that to jade my experience out there because I have held on to this feeling of like how I wanted them to show up. And it's like, I can't be responsible for how other people are experiencing. All I can do is, show up as my highest self. And I know and I trust because I found this in parenting. And that's been like my biggest lesson is just that when I'm showing up like as that higher self, like when I'm like just being love and I'm being present and I'm choosing that the people around me feel that and that they, even if they're not in the best place in that moment, like they like that energy is felt if I come into it in that space. But if I'm immediately, like, oh, why did they have to do this? I had this in mind. Like when I'm kind of in my head too much about how things ought to be, that I can't be there enjoying it. So I love that quote by her as another just like reminder of that we can't be responsible for the way other people are experiencing. We can only, be responsible for how we're showing up.
Yeah. And I love that you said that because I was just thinking about how, as you were saying that, like I was thinking about how I know this one person that, or I'm sure people have experienced it when you're talking to someone, they start getting on their phone all the time, or they just, they don't pay attention or whatever. And then they come into the conversation and they go back out. And I have another story around that one, but it's kind of hurtful. It's feeling like, here I am giving you a piece of my time and it's showing me that you're not really interested. So do you think I'm going to go back to that person again? No. And I actually did this. I was on a trip and in this moment, this person said it to me, like, you're not even presently here. And at first I was like, well, I'm presently doing what I'm doing. And now that I think about it, I'm like, that was probably hurtful to them, that I was, researching things on my phone for whatever, because I'm a healer and I just want to learn more things and whatnot, because things come to me, I take on feelings and I totally want to work through stuff. But to them, I think that affected them. And so and I was very grateful for this girl mentioning it. And my heart is so open for her, because anybody that can come to the strength to say, hey, listen, this doesn't fly with me and I don't appreciate it. And I honor that. So I'll go the other way as well. And I love what you said, when you have like people over or something. And I think you said that, but when you have people over, when you're thinking about what you wish you could have done or should do, and the whole time it's in your mind, there's no awareness. There's no conscious. There's no, not bringing any kind of awareness to it whatsoever. You're doing something that is just not in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for saying that. I just think of, or like an example just from today where, I think I've been feeling like especially triggered just in the last couple of days. I don't know if it's kind of like the length of, so we've been in this pandemic for about a month now, right? So 4 weeks of kind of being, at a stay-at-home order, and we're with our family all day, all night, and I just kind of wanted like some quiet, some space, and I was just feeling really triggered, and it my daughter went in to grab a snack, and she kind of like, we made these little like granola balls things that we have as a snack. But anyway, she went to try to get it, and she tried to do it on her own, which was great. I encouraged that. But then of course it fell. And so all of them fell out, and, we had just spent time making it. And and in that moment, of course, I felt anger and a little bit frustration. Like, why didn't you just ask? Like, why did you have to reach up there, but then I saw, like, I'm grateful that I could just see her in that moment. And I saw that she felt so bad and like she was afraid. And I think it was she saw the way I kind of, I'm sure like all day I just wasn't my best self. And so it felt like it touched me like so deeply to see like she was afraid of how I was going to respond to just this accident. Like it was just an accident. She just went to try to get something and she couldn't get it. And so I just think, you know, it was just kind of one of those examples of how, it reminded me that like, okay, I need to take a moment right now. Like I was grateful in that moment. I just hugged her and we just had like a nice moment. We're like, it's okay. Accidents happen. And then she felt okay. And it's just, we've sometimes just have to remember, especially in times like this, that you need to take that time for yourself. You need to do what you have to do. And in this, maybe it's just a moment, like we talked about, it's just a pause and breathe. Because how easy would it have been if I hadn't recognized in that moment, like if I wasn't present and I was like, if I yelled at her, and I didn't have that moment of just like seeing her and seeing that she made a mistake and that she felt sorry. And I would have felt really bad after. I mean, but so often I can think of times, where maybe I would have yelled and not even recognize it, but it's kind of like what you talked about. It's that awareness. And with this practice of just like the meditation and the appreciation practice that we talk about, in that we can bring that presence into those moments. But I think the biggest thing is just to like accept ourselves where we are right now, right? And like we did the best. You've all done the best you could with the tools and resources that you have. You've done the best you could. So when we can let go of that guilt and judgment and just we're closer and like on that path toward just being more present right now and just being here now. So that was just like a example of how we can choose differently and how that just will change the energy for the people you love and you want to show your love for.
Yeah. And Lindsay, so the one thing is that we make those choices. Whatever situation that we are in, where is our responsibility, right? But we made every choice to have children, to have this job, to have this or that, or we chose it. So why should we have people be punished for it? Or why do we have to resent ourselves? If that's a situation, or if that's what's getting activated inside of you, then there's something that needs to change. And sometimes we just are afraid to change it, or ask for what we need or what we want. And sometimes the reason why is because we really don't know the self and we're just too afraid. But the more that we practice with being engaged in the moment, with meditation, with being focused on one thing, where we become more aware of what we want and what we like, what we love. And when we make the right choice for ourselves, and if we choose in every moment to make a choice of presence, we are essentially, Lindsay, choosing love. We are choosing love when we choose presence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's a high five. I feel like that is like, boom. We'll attempt it.
Getting close.
But yeah, I think you're right. Presence is love. So, that quote that I mentioned earlier about like when we're unhappy, we're not present. We're like, that's not our natural. Like our natural state is love and peace. It's there, and we have to make the choice. And how do we make the choice? More often than not, it's doing the work. It's actually practicing gratitude and practicing appreciation and practicing mindfulness. And we touched on this earlier, that this experience, like all throughout our day, can be a meditation practice all throughout our day. When we're interacting with our children, when we're cleaning our home, when we're, all those things, like it's all a practice to be more present and to be there and to not label it as, in any moment, there's multiple stories about what can be happening. And like, let's say just one particular moment, like you said, like this day at home with my children that's busy and lively, that is a dream for someone. Like, I'm living it. So how, when we can kind of zoom out, like, so maybe my story of it in a moment is like, oh, I just want some quiet. But another person's story might say, wow, how much beauty is there, like with these kids that are so, loving. And, so there's always a different story. So if at the moment you're running a story in your head that's not serving you, that's making you feel fearful or unhappy, then we can choose love. We can choose a different perspective. And I love that freedom. And that when we can ask for help too, right? There's guidance, there's spirit that's kind of guiding us. And when we are not able to see it ourselves, we can ask for help, and it does, the spirit will guide us. And as we make those, that moment for stillness or that moment for pause, that helps us be able to tune into that spirit, that voice that's guiding us along, that we can sometimes, but what's cool is, like, even in the chaos, even in the mess, we can practice. And that's where the work lies. That's our work here, to find the love amidst the messy.
Yeah, that is so perfect. I mean, everything you're saying, I was thinking it at the same time. And it really, the presence is what we're doing with the presence is we're waking you up. We're waking you up so you can have everything that you want. You can manifest anything that you want as long as the messy is clear. But without the messy, you can't have practice. And so we didn't come into this world as, well, I guess we kind of came into this world as perfect being, but the human self layers stuff on it, but it's about how we learn to move with it. And so the presence is our gift. And our love, Lindsay and I's love, is our love to you guys, to offer this information to you, to really get in presence with yourself. So your world is a huge awakening, that you feel open and you feel positive, and that each moment of every single day is joy and happiness. That's all we want for you. That's all we want for ourselves. And it's not perfect, but what makes it perfect is that you say, hey, I did the best that I could in this moment. I did the best that I could. And next time I'm going to work with it again, and I'm going to work with it again. And you will watch your whole system unwind, evolve, and just be so connected with who you are and what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how you said that, and I feel like people could have some opposition to just the idea of, like, each moment being joy and love, and, feeling like, oh, that's not human, like, suffering is natural. But what if I think we can be challenged to, like, what is a beautiful state? Like, it's challenge that definition of joy. Like, what is joy? I think maybe we sometimes think that joy is like this perfect image, like as you maybe check, like, I think one of the negatives of social media is, like, you're looking at the highlight reel. And so you look at that and you think, oh, that's not, like, our day is not like that, like, and you think, well, then that's not joy. But, joy is different for each of us. And it's much deeper than anything that we can, materialize. It's a deeper feeling of meaningfulness and fulfillment and, accomplishment that's, like, greater than any success that, is human, like that, it's more. And I think it's so hard because we can't really, it's a feeling, and it's hard to, like, to define. But I think I love the idea of, like, what is joy? And, like, the more that we can, like, practice and recognize when we're really appreciating something and saying, wow, that feels really good. And then we can later in the evening say, what what did I appreciate today? And like, why did I appreciate it? And so then you're starting to train your brain to like recognize like, that's what I appreciate. That feels good to do this with my children. Like, it's not maybe what your sibling likes to do with her kids, or what your neighbor does, or what you see on the TV from this family. Like, it's different. It's going to be unique for you. And yeah, I think that's really powerful, because I think of how many times I've created these experiences that maybe wasn't what like I find that joyful, but I thought it would bring everyone joy, and maybe it didn't. So it's really thinking about, yeah, and just seeing, like, really honoring that our children have their own feelings, and like we can, see them and make sure that we're like doing those things that they enjoy too. And maybe it's not my favorite thing, but like to be open to that as well. And yeah, yeah.
I just, for me, I believe that we all deserve to be, the reward is not the gold medal. The reward is to have inner peace within yourself, to know that you are in a place of joy and expansion and connection. And, you can get over those hurdles and you can find the peace. Everybody can do it. And some people can do it on their own. Some people need help. And what we're giving you today is that the tools to just challenge yourself to just be in this experience right now, and just be in this experience. And when something throws you off, give yourself a breath before you move into it. Disconnect from that other experience and think, okay, I will get back to it. But for right now, I'm going to focus on this new experience and stay in that experience. And just watch how your heart begins to expand, because you're seeing things just like a little kid does for the first time in new eyes. Allow yourself to see things in new eyes, not resentful of what you've lost in the past, or what you wish you could have had, you should have had already. But think about, or what you're not going to get in the future. Just be in the now. Just be in this right now as we are with you. And I hope that's helpful. And what we want to do for you, right now, Lindsay has done some meditation on our channel, and they're very beautiful. So I've asked her tonight if she wouldn't mind doing like a 5-minute meditation with you all to feel what it feels like to be in the present moment. Are you okay with doing that now, Lindsay?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So I'm going to go ahead and put on some background music, because it always is good for us logic thinkers to slow that down. So sometimes that helps us to just stay in the moment too. So here we go.
Okay, so just take a moment now to just get comfortable in your body, and take a nice big deep breath in, feeling the way it feels as you just hold all that air in and then release. Just kind of focus on that feeling of breathing in, maybe holding your breath at the top for just a moment, and then breathing out. Just as you find that comfortable position, maybe rolling your neck a little bit, or rolling your shoulders, placing your hands simply just on your thighs, and feeling the groundedness of your feet planted against the ground. And just be here now. At any time, we can tune into this stillness, this presence that's within you. And just taking a little time to quiet, knowing that thoughts will still come, We'll feel those sensations throughout our body, and you can allow that to be there, but just return back to your breath, which brings you to presence and brings you to that place where you can find joy and love. It's within you. Imagine kind of a light that's just, you can feel kind of right in your stomach. And as you breathe, that light is moving all the way up to your chest, your shoulders, neck, and then up to the top of your head, just a really bright, white light. And that is love, and that energy is there to ground you and allow you to be your loving, peaceful self. It's within you. Now, I was just going to close with there's a really lovely publication called The Daily Word, and they come out with a daily kind of thought. And I just wanted to share it because I think it's a nice way to kind of just close out that meditation. And the word today is free. I freely choose where to place my energy today. Sometimes I may feel bound by my circumstances. When there are family matters that demand my attention, individual goals to meet, obligations to satisfy, and more. How can I be free of the stress of juggling my many commitments? I cannot simply disregard my promises to others and to myself. I remember that my work does not need to be done by me alone. I quiet my mind, ask, and patiently listen for that still small voice and heed its guidance. I am empowered by spirit within to make the best choices for the highest good of all. The gift of free will allow me to decide what to do and when to do it. So at any time, I take a deep breath and I feel that oneness and know that everything I need to do will get done. And I feel a sense of freedom. So just know, as you take that breath and you pause for whatever's going on in that moment, whatever experience you're in, that you have a spirit that's guiding you and that you can make a choice to love. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in.
That was amazing. That is such a beautiful gift. Thank
Aw.
you so much. I have tears in my eyes. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
Well,
thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so please, this is Choosing Love. You can find us on YouTube and email us at choosinglovecommunity@gmail.com. We'd love to include your question, your comments, anything that's on your mind that we can share and help you work through. We're here for you. We want to help you. So please reach out and please consider sharing this with someone that may find it helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.